Hello and welcome to Team Zero. Today we're going to be talking about the Final Fantasy trading card game, and we're going to be doing a set review of Opus 6, The Element of Wind. Now this is going to be the first in the series. We're going to be doing 7 videos in this, and we're just going to be attracting attention to Team Zero, who are competitive but not very good players in this card game. We like to mess around a bit. Come up with some inventive decks. But here we're going to be having a look at what sort of cards are going to be good in this new set, how it's going to change the meta, and what sort of things we can look forward to. So let's get into this. So our rating today is going to be rated on Bergens, because Bergen is trash. And, well, you know, we need to see how many piles of trash each card is worth. Okay? So first up in this set is the legendary Zer0. So this is 6044L. It's a 4-cost forward in wind, obviously. And he can't be chosen by your opponent's abilities. And when your opponent discards a card from his or her hand due to your summons or abilities, choose one character and activate it. When Zer0 attacks, your opponent reveals his or her hand. Select one forward from the hand, your opponent discards its card. Now, it's slightly under the curve, but the ability here is ridiculous. Obviously it's searchable by Ico and Steiner, so that's a thing to consider if you're running wind or water. And not being able to be chosen by ability means it's going to struggle to be dulled by anything other than a summon. So basically how this effect works is that when he attacks, he's going to be discarding something, and that's going to allow him to activate. Okay? But also, anytime you use effects like Gesper within ice decks, which you'll probably be running this in Wind Ice, it will also allow you to activate a wind character. Note that's FAQ'd wind character, not regular character, which might appear on your cards. So we're going to be looking at what sort of things we can do with this. The most popular thing that seems to be popping up in the community right now is by using Doned, which is a forward that never really saw any use before. But using Doned to reactivate Jesper at the end of your turn, and use it again. So, you know, if you've got no cards in hand, activating Jesper twice to discard twice from your opponent, allowing you to, well, you know, you pretty much can go on infinitely at that rate, can't it? You Jesper, which activates Doned, which activates Jesper, which discards, which activates Doned, etc. You wipe your opponent's entire hand, and then you just Sidolstein them to break something, perhaps. Or you can run it with the new Squall, which gets boosts if they don't have any cards. Same with Thaumaturgy, etc. Some other considerations are Spicillion. If you really need to rush your opponent's board quite quickly, you got a lot of low-cost stuff. Obviously, Wind is good at running low-cost forwards quite cheaply. Being able to reactivate a Spicillion after using it already to get another thing through for point of damage is a good idea. Trey is quite an interesting one. You can attack with Trey, or it can be done by an effect, and so he's stopping summons. But what you can do within this Wind Ice deck, say your opponent has tried to break Trey with an ability, you can then, I don't know, Jesper or another, like Flan, for example, your opponent, so they discard a card, which allows Zer0 to activate Trey, and then Trey can't be chosen by your opponent's abilities, meaning that their breaking effect fizzles, or if they're trying to, you know, so anything like Emina's break a dull forward, for example, or, you know, the 10k slam from Kazusa, things like that. They're not going to be able to do anything. Just a few examples there. So that's an interesting way to dodge some abilities. Dataluma Cactuar, not a deck people might consider it to be in, but so we all know that Cactuar pinging Dataluma twice can deal it 8k. So if you've got 2 Cactuars out, you can generally throw 8k out a turn and kill quite a few things with that. Obviously, lots of 4-cost and belows. Zer0, obviously, so after attacking with Zidane, so you can obviously discard a card and it reactivates. So you can reactivate the Cactuar to ping again, so you can either hit something to a 12k, or you can ping it from, if you've only got one out, ping it from a 4 to an 8. Generally, they're going to want to block those stuff, but if you make Zidane unblockable with Spicillion or through Zemus, for example, you get this free discard. The discard will then allow Cactuar to activate. You can then use it to ping off Dadaluma and help to kill something. So there's things you can use here. I'm sure there's a lot more in other elements that would greatly benefit from this, but obviously wind is where you're stuck. There's some things you can work with it, I think. But obviously just getting that extra mana can sometimes help boost your efficiency. So it's worth considering. I've given it 4 Bergens out of 5. It's not quite an auto-include in every wind deck. It quite honestly either fits in this wind ice, most likely, or maybe mono wind or potentially wind earth. It's not a... You're not going to be playing it in every deck, I don't think. Especially when there's so many other good Zidanes out there. Even just the random discard is fine. This might overtake it, but the one that can't be blocked by 4 or more, for example, it is a good competitor to this. And so is Light Zidane. That's quite an interesting one to compare to. So next up we've got Zer0. It's a bit expensive for 4. To be honest, you could probably Zidane this. You're getting back your Evokers and any other summoners, whatever. Your 1-cost backups that do nothing. Which, filters them out your deck and gives you some more mana, I guess. And I guess can help you ramp up to 5 backups really quickly if you're facing discard. So it's not too bad an option, I guess. But, you know, it's not really the best card out there. So combos, well, Lulu can break these 1-cost Evokers, so if you want to ping for 5k sometime, I guess, it can help. You know, to make space and stuff like that. There's that guy gets rid of 1-cost backups, but I don't know why you'd want to do that. It's a bit inefficient. You got Guy, because Sid isn't a category 2 backup, searches for a 1-cost backup. This guy will actually get the 1k boost off of Sid, so, you know, if you're running in Wind Fire, which is probably where you're running FF2, if it's not Fire Water, it's probably Wind Fire. So Guy will be an 8,000 power with this. Something to consider. And then the top 3 cards I've got here, so Galuf, making him 11k brave, because you're pulling these extra cards into your hand. Black Waltz gives extra power for this, from its enter the play effect. Obviously, you have to consider the actual playing of the card off of the cost here, though. So, and of course, Queener. If you're just pulling more 1-costs into your hand, that's an extra 1,000 power it can use there. So it's not really the best, and we've given it 2 Bergens. It's not the worst card out there. There are some combos, but I doubt you'll be using it too much outside of FF2 decks or super card boosting decks. So next we've got Sid Haze. Now this is a 3-cost EX burst backup with an engineer, and it searches for a standard unit forward and adds it to your hand. Now this is going to remind everyone straight away of Bran, which is exactly the same thing, except in water, and is a queen from FF9 rather than FF3 or Theatre Rhythm. So this basically helps one deck in particular get extremely good, and helps a bunch of others. So Chocobo decks now no longer have to run into the wind water segment to get that sort of searching boost, and sometimes the Warrior of Light boost that they would have before. They can now run safely a lot more in mono wind, which a lot of Chocobo decks really want to do. So that's something to consider. Obviously, Warrior of Light boosting standard unit forwards by 2k and giving them first strike, along with all of the other Warriors of Light which boost these standard units, and always a good thing. So it combos well on that deck. It's a very pauper deck based thing. Marauders think they'll benefit from it, you know, searching out that. And then Warrior of Light. So when Warrior of Light enters the field, it will gain some power from standard units and can play it off himself. Sid Hayes can get those standard units to your hand, which is always a good thing. And Ingus as well, you know, does the same thing really. You can search for a standard unit, which then they can play off of, to really help minimize their costs, get these decks a bit more running. So it's a decent card in certainly in pauper decks and standard unit decks. Or even if there's one standard unit you really need to get out, like the 2-cost Knight, for example. Yeah, Sid Hayes is something that you can comfortably use. I think you'll see much more use in Chocobos, but there's some options here. And yeah, so we're giving it 3 Bergens out of 5. So yeah, let's move on. Next up, we have White Mage. White Mage is a 2-cost backup from FF14. It's multi-card, so that's always a good thing. And when it enters the field, you can remove a card from your opponent's break zone, and you can also, at any point, you can pay 1. You don't even have to dull White Mage here, you just pay 1, and you can remove another card from the game and take White Mage to your break zone. So even if it's already dulled, White Mage can do this as well. So something to consider. This is comparatively like NUO's effect, really. Paying 1 to remove something from the break zone, except it kills itself, making more space. Yuna, it's quite similar to Yuna, pulling things from break zone to remove from game. Race Velga's effect to remove all cards in the break zone from the game. People think, oh, okay, this is a bit, we've got enough cards. This is Wind's option. You've got the light, the water, and the lightning options here. Wind's getting its own. It's a counter to the ice and earth cards like Devout. So Devout wants to pull a 4-cost from the break zone onto the field. You can use White Mage as a trigger to them using Devout, and on the stack you can remove the exact card that they were planning to get put onto the field. Same with Miner. Either their forward or their backup ability when it enters, you can on the stack White Mage to get rid of that card. When Tama wants to use it, either Tama, Minfilia, etc. There's a lot more break zone effects interaction coming into play. You can get rid of, I believe, Hecaton's share if you wanted to stop Vanille from coming back, which is quite an interesting thing because it will go from the break zone, I believe. I think that's how it works. Correct me if I'm wrong. But there's plenty of necrotic effects coming into play. Zemus. So this is quite a good thing. I think it's at least a one-off in a lot of Wind decks. Yet to see how much use you'll see, but depending how the meta changes. White Mage seems a pretty solid thing here, though. Standard unit means it holds well in that combo, so we'll see. I think it's pretty good. We're giving it 3 Bergens. It's not quite in the bad card. We think it sees some use, but we don't think it's something that's absolutely great here. Shinra. Yeah. 4-cost backup, EX Burst, and search for Gullwings. Your Gullwings are various Pains, a couple of Rikus, and 1 Yuna. Because you can't search for Brother. Why is it 1 Bergen? Brother. Brother is cheaper, and yeah, sure, Shinra's got the EX Burst, which might help out. But either you're running them both together, or you're probably just running Brother, because it can search for a lot of the non-Gullwing FF10, like Tidus perhaps, which can support you guys. Yuna in the set is pretty bad, so I don't know why you'd want that. In general, this combo, at least the Opus 6 combo, is pretty bad. So I guess you can get some value by searching off is it the Opus 2 Pain, I think, that searches for Yuna or Riku, I guess, to get them all kind of out. it's not very good. It's outclassed. I don't think it's really going to see play outside of that one deck, and even then, it's a maybe. Moving on. We've got 4-cost monster, a multi-card called Zer0, and Zer0 can play 0 mana, so activate at any point. Till the end of the turn, it becomes a forward with 7,000 power, and when it attacks, choose a backup you control and activate it. You can only use this ability once per turn. Now this is an interesting card. I don't think it's going to see too much play, purely by the fact that it is slightly more expensive, apart from the fact it's a monster. Just version of Sky Pirate Replica, which, as far as I know, doesn't see any play at all. So, if that's anything to go by, I don't think it's going to see play. It helps that there's a monster, because it can dodge a lot of the effects that forwards can't. But it's not necessarily the best. So it's got off no-no, it's interesting to consider, because when it becomes a forward as well, with no-no, you're actually activating 2 backups, which is helpful if you want to increase your mana threshold, you know, your CP. So that's a good thing. You could reactivate Astrologian if you're running it in Wind Water, which allows you to basically overextend a little bit better, but at that point, you might as well be running Lyak, I'd say. You've got Fat Chocobo, so if you're running it in a Chocobo deck, there's always that option. You can reactivate Fat Chocobo to use that plus 2,000 power again, which may help that trade, so there's that option. Geomancer, you know, if you put the first card down at the bottom of your deck because you don't like it, you got another chance to use it just to check. Helps a little bit more filtration, so I guess there's that. And of course, Zemus, getting that reactivated if you've already used it. Same sort of thing with No-No's effect, to just propel itself forward and constantly have unblockable stuff. But as far as things go, I think it's got combo potential, but I don't think it'll see much use. So I'm going to give it 2, I think. Even then, I think that's a bit of a push, but I guess 2 Bergens, go for it. Up next, we've got Chocobo. 3-cost, multi-cut, forward with 3,000 power, pretty bad there. Theatre Rhythm, standard unit, and it enters the field and plays another Chocobo with it. So that's helpful. Notably here, it can be searched for in 3 different ways, I believe, at the moment, inside Wind. Actually, no, even more than that, sorry. Way more than that, sorry. Fat Chocobo, Chocomorg, Chocoknight, Izana, and of course, Sid Hayes, as we've seen before, all ways to search for it. Yeah, that's quite a lot, to be honest. I guess it's basically a 1-cost 3k by that card. It brings it onto the field, which is something that Chocoknight doesn't. I guess. It's not very good, but if you want that mana advantage and you really need to flood the board, you could run it with water and use something like a Cloud of Darkness, for example, to slam them with a heavy power drop straight away. Or if you could bring in the Chocobo to give it haste, for example, or one that has haste itself. Unfortunately, I can't bring in black Chocobo, because that would have been really nice. But, yeah. It has its deck, I guess. Yeah. 2-cost. Go for it. Sorry. 2 Bergen, sorry. Yeah. Go. I think it's tier 1. 1 outside everything other. Like, never play it. Unless you're playing Chocobos, but I guess it has some uses, so yeah, 2, I think. Diablos. Now, this is one of the best cards in Wind, I think, so far that got released this set. It is absolutely amazing. So first of all, it's effectively a 1-cost summon, despite being 3-cost, from Final Fantasy VIII. So, you know, there's that helpful stuff there. I guess allows you to choose forward and drop its power, its printed power to 4,000, and you draw a card. So that's why it's effectively 1-cost. This is really good. dropping something to 4,000 as a combat trick, so you could block, for example, with something smaller, and then Diablos and win that engagement. I did that in the pre-release several times, so it's obviously a good thing. You can combo with the other Diablos, which you've reduced the power to 1,000. You can do that too. You know, it kind of, it's about the same thing there. It's not 1,000 like Barbarissia as well. They both drop, Barbarissia and Diablos drop things to 1,000, so it's a bit better. But Diablos effectively is a 1 cost. The other Diablos could pay for itself, but it gives you a bit more variety, and I think this Diablos is going to be just as useful, especially if you're not planning to kill things outright, and are just planning to weaken it so that a blocker or an attacker can take it out. You've got Black Mage and Magus, which can both finish off that final 4,000 if you need it to. So there's something. Quetzalcoatl is a very good card to use in this situation. So, same instance, so you're dropping them down to 4,000. Even if you're blocking, I don't know, if you're attacking with a 2,000 power Viking, like that's tricolour then, I know. Or something really, really weak, you're still winning that trade-off if you're dropping 5 CP for Quetzal. Because suddenly there are 2,000 power put forward, and you're plus 2k on top of that with an extra card. So, you know, it's not too bad there for effectively 3 CP. Not a bad combo. They're both kind of along the same lines as set, so if you're running Lightning, Wind, you probably, you know, you could run both quite easily, and they're both really good to use. Al Cid is an interesting one, because no longer is Al Cid restricted to go to Rigdiers and Onion Knights, etc. With Diablos and Quetzal itself. It can then bring out, for example, the new Legendary Cypher. Things like that are going to be a lot quicker. You've got the 2-cost Assassin it could bring in instead. Because dealing that 6,000, well, 6,000 is going to kill it if you've reduced it to 4,000 power. So I think it works really, really well inside of Wind Lightning especially. Mono Wind even. Fire Wind it's going to work quite well. Even in Wind Earth, because you generally have big forwards, dropping them down to 4,000. I think the only thing that's going to be particularly ineffective against is Ice, because they generally don't have the biggest forwards to begin with. But yeah, it seems to be a very good card there. Okay. Yeah, so next up's Pain. Pain's going to be two Bergens here. It's probably the best Gull Wings in this set, I'm not going to lie. And you'll see in a second. So it's a 4-cost named Pain from FF10. It's a Gull Wings forward with 8,000 power. And job Gull Wings forward you control can't be chosen by opponent summons. Assault, S ability 1 wind. All the job Gull Wings you control gain haste. So there's enough Pains out there that you can give itself haste quite quickly. Not too bad, and it can't be chosen by summons. The problem with it is, okay, first of all, you've got Yuna, who's the only Yuna that is a Gull Wings, that it can be searched for and played onto field with, so I guess that's a good combo there. It can be searched for by Brother and Shinra, so that's a good thing. But giving Yuna haste isn't really the best, and stopping her being tied by summons, I guess. It gives a sort of elementalist feel with Riku. That's the new Riku, but at the same time, why aren't you running the old Riku? Or even, well, the milling Riku is probably the most preferable here, but if you are running this offensive YRP Gull Wings, using the Opus 1 Riku, which already, like, it doesn't need Yuna then, you can run it in Mono Wind. So it'd be a 4,000, 8,000 power, can't be chosen by summons or abilities, so it's just a better ranger then at that point you can turn Riku into. It's okay. It's very limited. And I don't know why you would run this over some of the other Pains, unless of course you just wanted the power. The haste is nice. Yeah, this is why it gets 2 Bergens, because it's not it's not the worst pain you could use, and obviously you're not using it outside of YRP. But yeah, there we go. Next up's Fusion. Also two Bergens here. It's extremely reliant on one particular set here, and that's quite obviously wind and lightning, or wind, lightning, water, which is a bit of a stretch. Fusion is a 3-cost backup EX burst, so that's always nice for a searcher. Searches for Cypher, who is in lightning. So you're pretty much always running this with lightning, and Cypher gains first strike, which is nice. So first of all, there's a combo with Raijin. Raijin's S ability will allow you to ping an active forward for 8k if you have both that and Cypher on the field. That's something. Yeah, then you've got basically just relying on the entire Cypher combo. So you can either run the 3-cost 3000 power EX burst, search for a witch, so it's like a searching chain, and that can get you either Edia or Ultimisia out, I guess, which is something. You can run it with the legendary Cypher, so giving that first strike makes it a bit more of that threat, that bomb, especially because it basically trades up to 8,000. So that's something. And with the Edia, there's not much 4,000 powers that go or lower that go, sorry, 4-costed or lower forwards that go above 8,000 power. So he can trade off quite effectively there, and with first strike he's winning that engagement. So that's a boost. And then you've got the No Mercy Cypher, who with that Edia out is 9,000 power with haste and first strike then with Fusion. So, and you can also search for its S ability targets to break all forwards that cost 2 or less. That Shadow Lord effect. It's alright, it's very restricted in what you're running, same as the YRP, this SFR, which also is Cypher. Yeah, this combo is it's better than the Brandelis combo, I guess. It's alright, yeah, it'll see some use. I don't know how much, but it's not the worst card out there. It's very restricted, and that's why we're only giving it 2 Bergens here. Then we've got Geomancer! This may be the worst wind card we got this set, yeah. It's 1 Bergen. It's a 2-cost multi-card backup called Geomancer from FFTCG, so I guess that's something that's searchable. Put Geomancer in the break zone, choose an attacking forward, deal it 4,000 damage. So first of all, we see the comparison to Dois. Dois has the same, so it kills itself, but it's effectively cheaper than Dois and does more, because you're effectively paying 4 to do Dois's effect twice, whereas Geomancer just kills itself, which, you know, it's 3. So that's that, I guess, but Dois has its own S ability, so yeah. It's about the same as Magus, but from Lightning, but Magus outclasses it a lot, because apart from the restriction on being active, Magus can do it whether it's attacking or not, which means it combos with Barbarossa, etc. a lot better. Diablos is a good thing to use with it, because you know, you can reduce it to 4,000 when they attack and then ping this to kill them. But that's a lot of CP you're spending in that. Even with the 1 effective of Diablos, that's still 4 you're kind of expending on it. Is that really what you want to be killing something that's less than 4 costed? That's something to weigh up. Searchable standard units and FTA too, so that's something. Rama is a good thing if there's like 11,000 power forward, I guess, that's attacking you. You can happily spend effectively 4 CP to kill something that's generally going to be about 5 or 6. Something that's a little bit harder to remove. So if you're running Wind Lightning, there's that. But then you've got the massive problems and why it's terrible. Apart from the fact it's outclassed in lots of different areas. You have, first of all, the Emperor. So you can't even activate your ability in the first place. How fun is that? So you've just got a basic 2-cost backup that's doing nothing. I mean, Emperor affects a lot of things and makes them useless, but GM Answer certainly doesn't appreciate it, and considering how popular the Emperor is, yeah, not what you want. Minwu especially, I mean, it's decreasing with the rise of the new Minwu, but in water decks that are running this Minwu, the chances are 4,000 is not going to kill something, so that you're just killing your backup to do nothing. Or it's effectively useless because you're not going to trigger the backup if Minwu's up. There's a lot of shenanigans with Archer, Hecaton, etc. that you're going to have to use just to get rid of Minwu. It's not worth it. This is a terrible card. Please don't play it. It's one Birkin for a reason. It's trash. Paul! This is one of the best win cards in the set as well. Yeah. Mill decks needed this desperately. So it's a 2 cost from Final Fantasy 2, so lots of FF2 combos there with Firion and Guy, etc. Well, not necessarily Firion too much, but, you know, with Maria, Guy, etc, etc, if you're running FF2. Forward with 4,000 power is not the best, quite easy to kill, but he cannot be blocked by a forward of cost 3 or more, so that's 2 or less, which, you know, generally will beat him. Because most are 2 cost 5k, so he's generally losing to that, but ice decks, apart from like Thaumaturgy, for example, and Snow, don't tend to play too much that low costed. Lightning decks especially tend to be 3 and above, so Paul can sneak under those decks quite effectively for 3 point of damage, and when he does deal damage, he mills the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck. That's a 10th, yeah, a 10th of your deck right there. Yeah, well, technically you're killing 6 cards because you're dealing damage as well. 6 out of 50 gone like that is very, very, very powerful, especially for a mill player. That's 3 turns worth of natural thing you're cutting off. So we can see some similarities to Nanamigo, who, when it deals damage, puts the top 2. So that's only 3 it's doing. And it's 4 or more it sneaks under, so obviously Paul was doing a bit better here, if a lot easier to kill, and you don't get the extra draw that Nanamigo does. But I guess you're going to be using them as a bit more of a pair. They're going to be in the same deck alongside each other perfectly. Riku is that, you know, that put 1 card from his or her deck into the rake zone. It's a standard for every mill deck. Riku's loving Paul, Nanamigo's loving Paul, the mill deck is loving Paul. Now, if you wanted to run a more aggressive mill deck, rather than the sort of passive earth, wind that they're running at the moment, you could try wind, lightning. Now, Quetzalcoatl here can raise Paul to a 6,000 power and reducing your opponents down 2,000. So if he can take on 7,000 powers, quite easily beating them, which, to be honest, a 2 cost 7,000 power isn't very likely, so you're winning a lot of matchups with Quetzalcoatl. It's better than using Diablos here, because Diablos puts it to the same thing as 4,000, and Paul's still dying then. So Quetzalcoatl is a lot more useful here. Hits off EX Burst as well, which is helpful, but Paul appreciates it. Yeah, especially using Cypher as well, like if it reduces their power after getting damage in, it can make it a lot easier for Paul to get in as well. So yeah, it's something to consider. Paul's a very good card. Might see play in a lot of win decks, not just mill, purely because the damage of doing 5 cards, or 6 even. He's effectively already -4 costed. I'd say -2 if you're considering the cost of what he could have been. And that is an incredible cost efficiency for what it is. I'd be happy to play in a lot of win decks. Zemus is very good here. I mean, if you are struggling against their 2 or lesses, Zemus gets him in for free. If you're using a lot of no-no Zemus, you can reactivate Zemus for other things, maybe from a Nanamigo. Paul appreciates it. A lot of things do, but Paul appreciates it a lot. And then for the last 2 cards I put on Showcase for combos here, it's quite funny. And this is more what your opponent's running. Some ice decks might run Yule, especially if they're using Fasoya. So, you know, if you happen to have an Archer and you just want to kill Yule, that's an extra 10 cards of their deck. That's a fifth of their deck gone. Paul's going to make it really easy to mill them out. Anyone stupid enough to run Dark Lord is milling themselves for 10 when it enters, so it makes it easier for Paul. Yeah, well, the less cards in the opponent's deck, the quicker it is for you to win. It's a good card. It's 4 Bergens, not quite the 5. Unfortunately, nothing in this set hits 5. Spoiler, sorry. But it's one of the best cards you're going to come across for Wind here. Next is Maria. I mean, she's a rebel in FF2, I guess. 2 cost, 5,000 power. This is the worst legendary of this set, I think. So it's got 3 action abilities. The first of which is choose a category 2 forward other than Maria. It gains 2,000 power until the end of the turn. Deal 1,000 to all the forwards opponent controls. And Wind and Dull, choose a forward. The next damage dealt to it is reduced by 3,000. So 3 terrible effects that are probably not going to be used, all of which are shut down by the Emperor. I guess the middle one combos with Barbarossa, probably, well, both Barbarossias really. So I guess there's that. Just her and Guy alone can boost him to 10,000. Yeah. She makes Firion a 2 cost. 10,000. Yeah. Leon can be a 10,000, and it pulls to your side of the field if you play her after him. Interestingly enough, though, you can play it in water as well by using Layla. Actually, could become a 5,000 power if you wanted, because she's also category 2, and same with Scott. So Scott's 5 backups, and say Hilda, for example, makes him a 9,000 brave. So introducing this extra 2,000 makes him 12,000. Sorry, 11,000. What am I talking about? 11,000 power. Pretty strong for a 3 cost. Yeah, so Scott's an interesting one to use with. Why is it so terrible? Well, apart from the Emperor completely shutting off everything, it suffers from one major problem. It's called Maria. And the backup 4-cost Maria that boosts 1,000 to all of your forwards is infinitely better. Not only is it harder to kill, it still provides the boost to Guy. Unfortunately, it doesn't help with Firion, but it makes Leon a straight 9,000 and will pull him back to your side of the field. It boosts Scott to 10,000, Layla to 4,000. Yeah, sure, it's not the 2k boost, but then you don't have to dull for it either. And you still got that extra CP. It's a lot harder to get rid of. And that's the problem that Maria suffers with. It's so easy to kill, especially in the current meta. And even dulling it with Ice is a lot of... You can't use your abilities if you're dull. It's a pathetic card for a legendary. Yeah, I'd be surprised if anyone's playing this. One Bergen. This is trash. Just like Bergen. Moogle 11. I don't know if I like this. It's 2 cost, category 11, of course. It's a Moogle, obviously, and Retrieve is its ability. S and Dull, search for a card and add it jam. Any card. Any card. Perfect. What's worth that any card, though? Like, you've got to have a specific card in mind, generally, what you really want. I mean, it helps filter, but you're already dropping a card, and you're kind of paying 3 for 2. I don't know if it's worth it. You've got Thordan, which kind of does the same, except Thordan's basically a 1 cost, you know, rather than this. They're kind of the same, I guess. Thordan's in wind, though, and any is in water and any X burst. Yeah, that's kind of the difference here. Whereas Moogle's in wind and isn't. Star Sybil can search for it, though, so that's something. So can Chocomog. Yeah. So can Sarah. And Sarah can actually discard extra ones if you're not using them for the S ability to do something. So it's got some place in the Moogle deck, maybe. Nice to have another Wind Moogle to fling off with, like, Nono, for example. That's something, I guess. If you're running it with Star Sybil in Wind Earth, you know, you've got Camlanort as well, which comes into that 11 package, and that might be something you want to search for. Using that as a chain to search for Emperor or Chaos or Kefka or something. So there's some use of Moogle. Botanist can get you back more Moogles. Yeah, I guess. It's a character though, so you can't play more than one. Oh well. Yeah. I'm giving it 3 purely for potential rather than anything else. I don't think it's the best card. I don't think it's going to see a slot in every deck. So generally, it probably should be a 2, but because of what it could come, it could get you out that Bahamut or Raiden that you really need, or the Shantoto to save you. If it really wants, it could pick up any single card, anything at all, and if it's that one card that you need to win this game, you know, go for it. Like, if it fits your strategy, it's good. If it doesn't, leave it behind or take Thornton. Like, there's plenty of options here. So I'm giving it 3 Vergans. Wingvern! Wingvern. Yeah. 2 cost, multi-card type Zer0 monster. It's a dragon. So unless we're getting any dragon boosting stuff anytime soon. Yeah. You pay 2, put it in the break zone, and break something with 9k or more. It's an Alexander on a monster. Technically cheaper, so I guess there's that, but no one's running that Alexander anyway, even though it is an EX burst, so yeah. Not much really gets more than 9,000 without boost, so yeah. Araman kind of does the same, even though Araman blocks Doga, but then, you know, at the same time, Doga also blocks Wingvern, so yeah. The Emperor completely shuts it down, which tons of people playing. So unless, of course, you're running Wind, Water, maybe, monsters, and, you know, you want to Realm or Kefka into a 7k forward. Why does this card exist? We don't need it. That's all I can say. It's removal, but it's not the removal you want. It's not like a Mushu or a Deep Vern or a Dragon, you know, or any of the other sort of removal cards that we have of a similar variety. It's just bad. I don't see this seeing play. Laser Ford. Laser Ford is a 7 cost backup from FFTCG, so yeah. Yeah. When Laser Ford enters the field, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck and play a wind character of cost 5 or less onto the field. And return the other cards to your bottom of your deck in any order. So it's got Filtration. And you can play a 5 cost or less of any kind, except for a summon, onto the field. So that's good. And then pay 1 and kill himself to choose a forward, and its damage becomes 0. So that secondary effect is basically what Archer does, and what Porum's S ability does. So, which I don't believe ever really saw play. I mean, it could help, but it's the same as kind of giving First Strike, really, isn't it? I don't know. It never really saw play, so I don't think that effect will much, apart from just to kill him. Getting some 5 cost onto the field, so you can get that Canny Center out, which is good. If you've got the other 2 up, it's even better, and you could kind of help repay for Laser Ford. A little bit. Zidane you could bring out, which is always a good thing to have, I guess. Varn could then chain a wind forward in your hand of cost 3, so that's a triple chain there. So that's something you could do. Chaos Walker of the Wheel, if your opponent's using that, you know, it doesn't even work on that. It's playing it forward. Yeah, you see the problem here? Like, yeah. It doesn't have much synergy. And unless you're stacking your deck full of expensive wind characters, it's not going to do much. I don't know why Chaos is on there, but I must have thought it did something it didn't. But I'm giving it 2 because it's not trash, and there are combos that are good you can pull onto the field. There's some things that, you know, and the filtration is always good. You saw how Legendary Porum last set got a lot of play due to that filtration, and playing it directly onto the field is good. But sometimes you might want to save it in your hand a little bit more. You've got the FFTA2 boost to Mont Blanc, I guess. It may see use. I doubt it. If I'm wrong, you know, or I'm missing something, please tell me. I hope this is better than I think. Raptor! Why does this card exist? We do not need this. Okay, so it's the same as a lot of cards, where it completely and utterly relies on other cards to be good. Yeah. It's under curve, and it needs another forward to become just above the curve, and you can play 3 of them. 3 cost if you control FTA2 forward other than Raptor, it gains 2k. It's searchable in a lot of ways with Sid Hayes, Bran, Sid of Clan Gully, for example. So I guess that's something. Outside of maybe Title Series FFTA2, I doubt we'll see it. Adele and Ilua can trigger its effect. So can Elementalist, I guess. Warrior of Light could, with its boost, make it a 10,000 power first strike in Windwater. Something. Mont Blanc gains an extra 2k off of it. It's not going to see play outside a Title Series or maybe Pauper. We don't need this, but every set needs a common that no one's going to play. So, you know, moving on. Riku, which is also trash. What? Yep, Riku is trash. YRP already has support, and YRP always has better support. Can't be chosen by ability, so this is literally a ranger with an S ability that's searchable for Brother and Shinra because of FF10 and Gullwings. But it doesn't get the standard unit boosts that Ranger does. But the escape ability doesn't really help that much. It just, oh shit, I made a mistake. Let's jump out. Okay. It's a rare, I guess. For the artwork, I think, maybe, I don't know. It combos with Gullwing's Yuna and Gullwing's Pain, so from pre-release it was pretty decent. Making Yuna and Pain together, or not summons or abilities, is good, I guess. The problem is, there are better Rikus. That's the real problem. Even though Haste from Pain, like, there are better Rikus. First of all, you've got Mill Riku, which sees a lot more play, especially outside of YRP decks, and this is the only deck that it's ever going to be playing in YRP, Riku Pain. But you're going to be playing the other Riku, I'm pretty sure. The one that gets immune to summons and abilities and becomes, what, 10,000 power is it, or something like that? With Yuna and Pain up, so why would I pay for a 3/7 when I can do a 4/10 that's the same? And, you know, never really needed the S ability, and it's, even if I'm running this Pain, this set's Pain, it still gets the haste. And if I'm running that Yuna, it can still be searched. It can be searched by Shinra and Brother anyway, so I don't need, you know. This Riku is redundant, and that's why it's only one Bergen. It's never seen play, I don't think, unless all you're doing is spamming them. Finally, we have Leon. At first glance, it's bad. Final Fantasy 2, 1 cost, named Leon. He's a rebel, and when he enters the field, your opponent gets him. And when a category 2 enters then opponent field, so i.e. yours, whoever doesn't have him, if they play an FF2, you get it. So yeah, people think this is terrible. I'm not so sure. Okay, so first of all, it's 1 cost 8k, which is a lot of power for what it is. Guy will boost off of him to become an 8,000 power, and Guy will bring him to your side. So that's two 8,000 powers you've got there. Firion will be made cheaper by him. Errata, remember that the other Leon in Ice would do the same, but you're probably running Wind, Fire, so, yeah. So Firion will be made cheaper by him, and that's always helpful, I guess. The Emperor will actually bring him to your side, so that's a thing to consider. And quite thematic lore-wise as well. So that's something to consider. Playing the Emperor, which a lot of people do. If you're running FF2, I would seriously consider this card. Maria, backup Maria especially, making him a 1 cost 9,000 power on your side of the field is amazing. It outclasses Barnabas, obviously, straight away off of that. You get a lot more from it. Ewan, you know, if you just... Sometimes your opponent might have 2 forwards, and then... So, if you're playing tricolour, or even dual colour, so giving your opponent that 3rd forward will either A, boost Firion to make him a 9,000 power haste, which is fun, or it could boost Ewan to make him unblockable, so it could be tricolour, or even just with boosting Firion it's good, but giving it to your opponent isn't always the bad idea. It can have an advantage, especially... For example, you could play Leon and it goes to your opponent, okay? Which then you have Ewan out on the field. He might already be on the field. He might just play him, and it gives him haste, and he can't be blocked. So he goes through and he deals a point of damage, and then you might solidify yourselves by playing Guy or Maria or Firion or something to bring him back to your side of the field and solidify your position even more. Shem Hazai is probably the best use of this, especially with Maria. So you can even run him with Mono Wind. 1 cost 9k with Maria. Can't be blocked. Basically. The only things that can get rid of it is Barnabas, which is never seen play. Ever. Probably. 1 cost 9k is... Yeah, that's a 3 point of damage right there. I think within... FF2, which it has to be with, it really, really does have to be with FF2 cards. It is good enough to be worth 2 Bergens, because it has a place. Some cards have no place, which is why they're 1 cost, or they're completely redundant. This has a place. It's not the best card. It has a place. It's 2 Bergens. So that's it. Yeah, Team Zero, thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for the next review. Hopefully I'll be joined by the remaining members of Team Zero. Bye!